Think about the last time you decided you were going to completely change your life.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. You probably went out and bought a brand new journal, or maybe you downloaded one of those habit tracking apps.
Or you sat on a therapist's couch trying to unpack your childhood.
Exactly. Trying to figure out why you always sabotage your own success.
We have this deep-seated expectation that personal growth has to be, a psychological journey.
Yeah, we treat it like a mental puzzle. We think like, if I can just fix my thoughts or untangle my emotions, I'll finally become the person I'm supposed to be.
Right. But what if it isn't psychological at all?
That is the crazy part. What if your burnout, your stalled career, and those rare moments of just absolute effortless genius all come down to the exact same thing?
The physical geometry of the carbon atoms in your body.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are asking you to consider your own evolution not as a mental hurdle, but as a literal elemental transformation.
It is a radical shift in perspective, isn't it? Moving away from the mind and looking squarely at the material reality of what we are.
Because we are carbon-based life forms. And carbon is arguably like the most fascinating, versatile element in the universe.
Oh, without a doubt. It can take the form of soft, dark soot, or it can be the hardest diamond, purely based on how its atoms are arranged.
So we are looking at a conceptual framework today known as graphenosophy.
Yes, developed by Günter Berner.
And the mission today is to explore this idea that you can map human development through 3 distinct stages of carbon.
We're going to walk through exactly how you evolve from a completely chaotic state of raw potential into a structured state of discipline.
And then finally into a state of almost superhuman clarity.
And what makes this framework so compelling is that it doesn't just rely on abstract metaphors.
No, it really grounds human psychology in actual physics.
Exactly. And then it weaves in these ancient philosophical systems, alchemy, the I Ching, the gene keys.
Just to show that for thousands of years, human beings have been describing this exact same process of elemental refinement.
Every single one of us starts at stage 1, which in this framework is called biological carbon.
Okay, let's unpack this. Biological carbon. Let's really dig into what that means, because when I first encountered this, it sounded a bit, reductive.
Like we're just walking bags of chemicals.
Yeah, exactly. But the physical reality of biological carbon is actually incredibly dynamic.
It is intensely dynamic. In physics and chemistry, when we talk about biological or amorphous organic carbon, we are talking about an unordered, chaotic state.
But it's an intensely alive state, right?
Absolutely. It's the carbon that makes up your proteins, your DNA, the lipids in your cell membranes, the carbohydrates you burn for energy.
It's the squishy stuff, the living, breathing, sweating, digesting reality of being a human being.
That's a great way to put it. And if you look at the molecular structure of amorphous carbon, it lacks any long-range crystalline order.
Meaning what exactly? Like it's just a mess.
Pretty much. The atoms are bonded together, but in a totally random tangled web.
Okay.
Because of this lack of structure, physically speaking, this form of carbon is highly flexible and it is incredibly reactive.
So it bonds with things easily.
It bonds easily, it breaks apart easily, it is transient, it's constantly breaking down, metabolizing, and reforming.
It's the absolute definition of chaotic biology.
Exactly. And what's brilliant is how this literal physical state maps onto our psychological state.
Right, because this is the starting material of life. It's raw.
And to understand what it feels like to live entirely in this stage 1 state, we have to look at the alchemical equivalent.
Right, the text maps this perfectly to the alchemical stage of nigredo.
Nigredo, which literally translates to the blackening or the dissolution.
I was looking at the history of this, and the imagery is so visceral. Like, in alchemy, the goal was the philosopher's stone, the ultimate refinement.
But you couldn't just start with gold.
No, you had to start with base materials.
Yeah.
Lead, earth, raw matter.
And the very first thing the alchemist had to do in the laboratory was subject that base material to fire and moisture until it completely broke down.
It putrefied. It melted into this chaotic, blackened sludge.
Primordial soup.
Yes, the primordial soup. And if we translate that blackened sludge into your daily life, it perfectly describes a very specific and very common state of being.
Because remember, the physics of amorphous carbon tell us it has high flexibility, high reactivity, but absolutely zero stability.
Which means it is a state of high energy consumption with shockingly low efficiency.
It's exhausting, honestly.
Which is such a relatable feeling. Think about it this way. Imagine an engine running without a transmission.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. The engine is absolutely roaring. It's redlining. The pistons are firing. There is heat. There is noise. There's an incredible amount of energy being consumed.
That's your emotion, your passion, your biological drive.
Exactly. But because there is no transmission, no structure to connect that raw power to the wheels, the car isn't moving an inch forward.
You're just burning fuel and overheating.
Yeah, you are just wasting energy.
That is a very accurate mechanical equivalent to biological carbon. The energy is there, but it is entirely unordered.
Let's ground this in a real-world scenario for the listener. Think about your 20s, or maybe a period in your life where you felt completely unmoored.
Oh, the chaos of the 20s.
Right. You get these massive bursts of intention. It's like midnight on a Tuesday, and you suddenly decide you are going to change everything.
You're going to start a tech company, you buy 3 domain names.
You order 5 books on philosophy, you vow to wake up at 5 a.m. to run 5 miles, and, I don't know, you decide you're going to learn Mandarin.
You have all this flexibility. Your biological carbon is reacting to everything around it.
But because there is no crystalline structure to bear the weight of those intentions, what happens?
By Thursday, you are exhausted.
Yeah. You sleep through the alarm, the books sit on your nightstand gathering dust, and those domain names auto-renew a year later as a painful reminder of your fleeting passion.
The energy was, as this framework describes it, liquid. It was liquid and completely undirected.
You have all the potential in the world, but it just spills everywhere, spreads out thin, and evaporates into the air.
And this has profound impacts on a career, too.
Oh, totally.
In a stage 1 career, you might be the hardest working person in the room. You are likely very creative, deeply engaged, but you bounce erratically between projects.
Like, you might be a brilliant graphic designer, but you get bored, so you drop it to become a real estate agent.
And then you get frustrated by the housing market, so you decide to start a drop shipping business.
You're constantly reinventing the wheel because you refuse to build an axle.
That's a perfect way to phrase it.
And the ultimate symptom of this, and I think everyone listening has felt this at some point, is getting to the end of the month, looking back at the sheer volume of running around you did.
The late nights, the stress.
And asking yourself, where did my energy actually go? Why do I have nothing to show for this?
It was consumed by the chaos. The friction of an unordered system burns up all the energy just to maintain the system.
It's thermodynamic waste.
Exactly. And on a personal level, this stage 1 state is characterized by severe emotional whiplash.
Because you're so reactive.
Yes, you feel very, very alive. Amorphous carbon is vibrant. But you also feel frequently overwhelmed.
You are completely at the mercy of your environment. Like, if someone criticizes you, your whole day is ruined.
But if someone praises you, you feel invincible.
Your relationships in this stage are probably incredibly intense. Lots of passion, lots of grand declarations of love, but completely unstable.
It's high drama. You're constantly breaking up and getting back together or changing friend groups.
Which is why the mapping to the I Ching here is so incredibly precise.
Yes, the specific hexagram associated with this raw biological stage is hexagram 47.
Which is oppression or exhaustion, right?
Yes. And if we look at the imagery of hexagram 47, it is the lake above and water below.
Okay, what does that mean in practical terms?
The meaning is that the water has drained out of the lake. It is a dried up reservoir.
Wow.
When your energy is highly reactive but lacks any structural container to hold it, you inevitably reach a state of exhaustion.
The chaos simply wears you down.
You are oppressed not by outside forces, but by your own lack of internal structure. You are a dried-up lake.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Go ahead.
If this stage is so exhausting, so dramatic, so wildly inefficient, why is it framed as the necessary starting point?
What's fascinating here is that without the chaotic, highly reactive raw material, there is nothing to build from.
But isn't chaos inherently bad for growth? Like, it sounds like stage 1 is just a disaster zone. Shouldn't we just try to bypass the biological mess entirely and start with structure?
Well, you can't bypass it because there is no other material to work with. You cannot mold a diamond out of a vacuum.
Okay, I see.
This is the brilliance of the alchemical perspective. The nigredo, the blackened sludge, is not judged as bad. It is revered as the absolute prerequisite for everything else.
It's the clay.
It is the clay. Precisely. If you were born as a perfectly structured, non-reactive entity, you would be inert.
You wouldn't be capable of growth.
Exactly. The chaos of biological carbon is inefficient, certainly, but it is infinitely rich with raw potential.
It contains every possible future configuration within its tangled web.
The problem isn't that you experience the chaos. The problem is staying stuck in it. indefinitely.
The tragedy is letting your liquid energy constantly evaporate until you are just permanently exhausted.
Precisely.
Okay, that makes sense. The chaos is a feature, not a bug, but it's a feature you're supposed to outgrow.
Right.
Which brings us to the most difficult part of human development, the transition.
Because if stage 1 is all about high energy consumption with low efficiency, the only way to stop bleeding energy is to find a way to harness it.
The only way to refill that dried up lake is to find a way to harness the water. We have to move from the problem of scattered energy to the text's proposed solution.
This is the first major developmental task. It is the transition from biological soup to the first semblance of architectural order.
So how do we actually do that? What is the psychological mechanism that takes us from liquid potential to solid reality?
It requires an immense amount of pressure.
Right, because in the physical world, to change amorphous carbon into a structured form, you need geological heat and immense pressure.
You need tectonic plates crashing together over millions of years.
How does a human being mimic tectonic pressure?
Through the conscious application of restriction. It is the friction of denying an impulse.
Okay, give me an example of that.
Every time you have the biological impulse to quit a project because it got difficult, and you force yourself to sit in the chair and finish it, you are generating psychological heat.
Wow.
Every time you want to lash out in anger because your reactive carbon is flaring up, and you bite your tongue and choose a measured response, you are applying pressure.
It's the sheer willpower required to stop the engine from revving out of control and force it to engage the gears.
Exactly. And the I Ching hexagram that bridges us into the next stage captures this mechanism perfectly. It is hexagram 26.
The taming power of the great.
The taming power. Think about the imagery of that phrase.
It implies a wild beast. But the beast isn't killed, and its spirit isn't broken. It is tamed.
It is harnessed.
You put a saddle on the wild horse of your biological energy.
That is the exact mechanism. You are taking that chaotic biological energy and you are applying the taming power of discipline.
Of structured routines, of boundary setting.
You are subjecting the amorphous carbon to the geological pressure of habit. And when you sustain that pressure over time, something miraculous happens at the atomic level.
The chemical structure fundamentally changes.
The atoms rearrange themselves. The chaos crystallizes. And you arrive at stage 2.
A graphite phase. The architecture of routine.
We have arrived.
So we've applied the pressure. We've endured the friction of building discipline. What actually happens to carbon when it becomes graphite?
Because this isn't just about getting harder. It's a very specific type of structure.
Right.
In physics, when carbon transitions into graphite, it adopts what is known as the Bernal structure.
The Bernal structure. Okay, what does that look like?
The atoms stop swimming around in a chaotic web. They organize themselves into perfect hexagonal rings like a honeycomb.
Okay, I can picture that.
But here is the crucial detail. These honeycombs form flat, two-dimensional sheets, and in graphite, these sheets are stacked on top of each other in thick layers.
So it's layered like a massive stack of paper or the pages of a book.
Visually, yes, it's like a stack of paper, but chemically, it's more like a stack of magnetic sheets.
Interesting.
Within each individual layer, the carbon atoms are bonded very tightly. The honeycomb is strong.
Okay.
But the bonds between the stacked layers are entirely different. They are held together by something called van der Waals forces.
Van der Waals forces. That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. What does that actually mean?
It means the attraction between the layers is relatively weak. It's just a faint electromagnetic whisper keeping the stack together.
So they aren't physically tied together in the same way the honeycomb is?
Exactly. And because these forces are weak, the layers can slide across each other very easily. This is why graphite is soft.
It's why it is used as an industrial lubricant, right?
Yes.
And it's literally what is inside our pencils. When I drag a pencil across a piece of paper, I'm shearing off layers of graphite.
That's exactly what's happening.
The van der Waals forces are weak enough that the friction of the paper just peels the top layer off, leaving a mark.
The internal structure of the layer is strong, but the overall architecture is composed of these sliding, semi-independent planes.
Okay, this is fascinating.
Furthermore, graphite has incredible electrical conductivity, but primarily along the plane of the layer.
Meaning energy flows beautifully horizontally across the honeycomb, but it struggles to jump vertically between the layers.
Precisely.
Okay, let's take this brilliant physics lesson and map it back onto our psychology, because the text calls this stage gathered power.
The wild liquid energy of the Nigredo has been tamed and banked.
Alchemically, we have moved out of the blackened dissolution and into the albedo, right?
Yes, the albedo, which is the purification or washing stage, and then the citronitis, the awakening. You have purified the chaos into a structured form.
And in the gene keys, this represents moving from the shadow to the gift level.
And the I Ching hexagrams shift from exhaustion to hexagram 45, which is gathering together.
You have gathered your scattered atoms into a cohesive honeycomb.
Exactly.
So what does life actually look like when you are operating in the graphite stage? We've left the exhausting drama of our 20s behind.
No, you are the person who actually does the things they say they are going to do. You have solid routine.
Oh, we have layers.
Yes, layers.
Like you have a layer dedicated to your physical health. You go to the gym on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and you meal prep on Sundays.
That layer is tightly bonded.
You have a layer dedicated to your career. You answer emails between 8 and 9 a.m. You have deep work blocks. You have an organized calendar.
You have a layer for your relationships. Date night is Thursday.
You are highly productive. The energy is no longer evaporating. It is flowing smoothly along the planes of the habits you have built.
In your career, this is the stage of the stable professional or the successful entrepreneur. You are known as being highly reliable.
You don't flake. You've built operational protocols.
And because your powers is gathered and directed, you earn regular, reliable money. The chaos of not knowing how you're going to pay rent is gone.
And internally, you have become resilient. If one layer of your life takes a hit, say you have a bad day at work, it doesn't necessarily destroy the other layers.
Your physical health routine might still hold up. You are protected by the sheer bulk of your structured habits.
It is, by all societal metrics, a highly successful state to be in. It sounds like the absolute dream.
It does on paper.
Honestly, it reminds me of a highly organized corporate filing system. You know exactly where every single piece of paper is.
The system works perfectly.
The color coding is beautiful. The company is profitable. You know exactly what you're doing every day. But
there is a massive trap here.
A huge one. Because while graphite is stable, remember those van der Waals forces? The bonds between the layers are weak.
This is the critical caveat from the source material regarding stage 2.
What happens when real, unprecedented stress hits a person who is entirely reliant on the graphite stage?
The layers slip.
The layers slip.
it.
Let's say you have this perfectly engineered morning routine. Meditation, journaling, green smoothie, a 10-mile run.
It is a titanium layer of habit.
But one morning, your water heater breaks, your kitchen floods, and you have to spend 3 hours dealing with a plumber instead of doing your routine.
For someone stuck in the rigid structure of graphite, that doesn't just ruin the morning.
Right, because the layers aren't truly integrated vertically.
Exactly. The slipping of one layer causes the whole stack to feel unstable. They might lose their temper, snap at their spouse, eat junk food for lunch, and feel like their entire day is ruined.
They are enslaved to their own taming power. The discipline that saved them from the chaos of stage 1 has become a cage.
You are stable, you are safe, but you are incredibly stiff.
You lack spontaneity. You spend so much energy maintaining the color-coded filing system that you have no energy left for true creative genius.
This is what the framework identifies as the missing breakthrough. Despite the stability, despite the systems and the reliable income, it lacks effortless lightness.
You might be too serious or too focused on control.
Energy flows, but as the physics of graphite show us, that flow is directional. It only moves where the structure allows it to move.
And this is where my mind was totally blown, because if you look at 99% of the self-improvement industry, the podcasts, the best-selling books, they are all just trying to get you to stage 2.
Oh, absolutely.
They just want you to build the habits, get the stable income, and establish the routine. They treat graphite like it's the finish line.
They really do.
So why not just pitch a tent in the graphite phase and call it a well-lived life? I mean, it's safe, reliable, lucrative.
Because deep down, the person in the graphite stage knows they are carrying around an immense amount of weight.
The layers of routine, while protective, are heavy.
It takes constant vigilance to keep the van der Waals forces intact. They're terrified of dropping the ball.
That isn't true freedom.
No, that is just highly organized management of fear. Graphenosophy pushes the boundary by demanding that we don't stop at mere stability.
The narrative insists we must move toward an ultimate final refinement.
The text explicitly defines the next developmental hurdle. It says the task now is transitioning from pure stability to the highest possible flexibility combined with absolute conductivity.
And I have to tell you, the psychology of this transition is terrifying.
It is deeply unsettling.
Think about it. You spent years, maybe decades, crawling out of the messy biological chaos of stage 1.
You sacrificed, you applied pressure, you finally built the routines.
Your business is stable, you have savings, you are safe in your thick, heavy layers of graphite, and now the universe, or this framework, taps you on the shoulder and says, great job, now let it all go.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it feels like a regression. It feels like you were being asked to go back to the chaos.
Right. If I let go of my routines, won't I just become a messy, stage 1 biological disaster again?
This is the paradox that stops most people from ever reaching true mastery. They confuse the scaffolding with the building.
Oh, wow. The scaffolding.
The layers of graphite, while stable, still represent a form of density. The routines of stage 2 were necessary scaffolding to arrange your carbon atoms into a crystalline structure.
But once the structure is formed.
If you don't remove the scaffolding, you can never truly inhabit the building. You have to let go of the heavy, redundant layers to achieve ultimate conductivity.
Which brings us to the absolute pinnacle of Günter Berner's framework. We arrive at stage 3, the graphene state.
The monolayer of mastery.
The physics of graphene are so wild, they almost sound made up. Let's really break this down, because the metaphor relies entirely on understanding what this material is.
Graphene is the highest, noblest crystalline form of carbon.
Okay.
If you remember, graphite is a stack of hexagonal sheets. Graphene is just one of those sheets. It has been stripped of all the other layers.
It is perfectly two-dimensional.
Literally a single atomic layer. It has no depth.
It is one atom thick.
It is a single perfect honeycomb lattice of pure carbon. And because it had been stripped of the heavy layers, and because it no longer has to deal with the weak van der Waals forces dragging it down, its properties change in ways that defy everyday logic.
It becomes superhuman. The source literally describes its properties as almost superhuman.
It truly does. Graphene is exponentially stronger than steel, despite being almost weightless.
It is entirely transparent because it is so thin.
It is incredibly flexible. You can bend it, twist it, stretch it, and it will not break.
And most importantly, without the interference of the stacked layers, it becomes a near-perfect superconductor of electricity and heat.
Energy passes through it with zero resistance.
And symbolically, this is what the framework calls refined carbon.
Yes.
This is the part that I find so incredibly profound. It is the exact same element that started as the messy, chaotic biological soup.
You didn't add any gold. You didn't import any foreign materials.
It is just carbon.
Yeah.
But it is the highest possible expression of it.
In alchemy, this is the final stage of the great work. It is the rubido, the reddening or completion.
The philosopher's stone has been achieved.
In the gene keys, it corresponds to the siddhi level, which signifies divine realization or ultimate mastery. You have moved from the shadow through the gift to the siddhi.
And the I Ching hexagrams for this stage are just beautiful. Hexagram 22, which is grace, and hexagram 64, before completion.
Let's unpack grace for a moment. In the I Ching, hexagram 22 represents fire burning under a mountain.
Fire under a mountain.
It illuminates the mountain, bringing out its natural beauty and form without altering its substance. It is effortless illumination.
Grace is the perfect word for it. Let's talk about what this graphene state actually looks like for a human being in the real world.
How do you know if you, or someone you meet, is operating at stage 3?
Yeah, what does that everyday reality look like?
The hallmark of the graphene stage is an absence of friction. You no longer need the rigid, color-coded filing system of stage 2 to force yourself to be productive.
Because your inner structure is so perfectly ordered at the atomic level, that right action happens naturally.
Exactly. You aren't constantly managing your habits. Things seem to handle themselves.
It's the difference between memorizing the rules of grammar and simply speaking your native language perfectly without thinking about it.
You are present. You are calm. But simultaneously, you have massive energy.
It's not the liquid spilling energy of stage 1.
And it's not the rigidly banked energy of stage 2. It is superconductive. Life flows through you perfectly.
On a personal level, this means you possess absolute inner stability coupled with maximum adaptability.
Remember, graphene is stronger than steel but completely flexible. If you are operating in this stage, difficulties still touch you. You aren't a robot, you live in the real world, but they cannot knock you off your center.
You bend, but you don't break. To use an analogy, if stage 2 graphite is like a brick wall, strong, but if you hit it hard enough, it shatters. Stage 3 graphene is like a perfectly tuned tuning fork.
Oh, that's a beautiful way to think about it.
It doesn't rely on bulk or thickness to survive an impact. When life strikes it, it doesn't shatter. It just absorbs the kinetic energy and rings at a perfect, clear frequency.
And it radiates. Your mere presence becomes inspiring to others. You exhibit a natural grace.
You don't have to force an aura of competence. It just exists.
Let's look at how this manifests in a career, because the framework gives some very specific archetypes for what work looks like in the graphene stage.
This is about operating in your true feel. It's the permanent flow state.
Work feels entirely light, yet the impact is massive.
Because your inner coherence, that graphene quality radiates with no resistance, you naturally attract exactly what you need.
You don't have to hustle and burn out like stage 1.
And you don't have to grind and enforce funnels like stage 2.
Think about a practitioner, maybe a therapist, a consultant, or a coach. A stage 2 coach has a 10-step workbook.
They walk you through the modules. They rely on the structure of the curriculum to help you.
It works, it's helpful, but it's mechanical. A stage 3 coach, operating with graphene quality, triggers deep transformations in their clients almost invisibly.
It's their sheer presence, their absolute clarity, and their ability to listen without projecting their own ego, their own thick layers that allows the client to heal.
Or consider the artist, the writer, or the entrepreneur whose work achieves what we call cult status.
Right. Why do some products or pieces of art resonate so deeply with millions of people?
It isn't just because of good marketing. It's because the creation resonates on a frequency of pure authenticity.
The creators stripped away their defensive layers and produced something transparent and immensely strong.
The framework also mentions the researcher or the developer who creates genuine, paradigm-shifting innovations.
They aren't just incrementally improving an existing system. That's stage 2 work.
A graphene stage thinker sees through the system entirely. Because they have a two-dimensional clarity, they can look at a complex 3D problem and find the elegant, single-layer solution that changes the world.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because my logical brain still rebels against the physical metaphor.
How so?
Wait a minute. Graphite is made of thick, heavy layers. Graphene is just a single, incredibly thin atomic layer. If I am listening to this, I'm thinking, if I strip away all my layers of discipline, if I stop tracking my calories, if I stop hypermanaging my calendar, if I let go of all my safety nets, doesn't that make me inherently more fragile?
It seems like it would.
How can being paper thin be the ultimate state of strength? Doesn't stripping away all those layers make you more vulnerable?
This is the paradox of graphene. Stripping away the layers does not make you more fragile. It removes the very source of the fragility.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. I'm still stuck on the idea that more armor equals more safety.
Think back to the Bernoulli structure of graphite. Where does graphite break?
Well, you said it peels off.
Right. It doesn't break within the honeycomb. It breaks between the layers. The van der Waals forces are the weak point. The friction, the potential for failure, exists entirely in the gaps between your defensive layers.
Wow. So the bulk is actually a liability.
Exactly. In stage 2, your ego builds all these layers to protect you. I am a successful business person. I am a perfectly healthy eater. I am an intellectual.
These are all heavy layers.
And when life challenges one of those identities, the layers rub against each other, creating massive internal friction and psychological pain. You spend all your energy trying to hold the heavy sack together.
But when you reach stage 3...
When you refine yourself down to graphene, you drop the identities. You drop the rigid need to control.
You distill yourself down to your pure core essence, a single, perfect, two-dimensional structure.
And because there are no longer multiple layers rubbing against each other, there is zero internal friction.
There are no van der Waals forces to fail you.
The tensile strength of a pure core identity is astronomical. You achieve more strength and complete flexibility.
So the strength doesn't come from bulk or armor or walls. It comes from absolute, uncompromising alignment.
Perfect internal coherence. You achieve total flexibility because you are no longer weighed down by your own defensive structures.
You don't need to protect your identity because you simply are your identity.
Authenticity and impact become the natural resting state of your material. It's not forced.
That is just, it's a staggering way to look at human development. It makes me think of martial arts philosophies like Bruce Lee saying, be water.
Yes, very similar conceptually.
But this is almost more profound because it's structural. It's be a single atomic layer of perfect carbon.
Yeah.
You are so deeply aligned with your true nature that you offer zero resistance to reality, which makes you functionally unbreakable.
That is the essence of the CD level. That is the true meaning of the rubido. The great work isn't about building a massive fortress. It's about refining yourself until you are a perfectly clear lens.
Okay, so let's say you've done the work, you've navigated the nigredo, you've applied the taming power, you've survived the albedo, and you've had the courage to shed your layers and reach the rubedo.
You are a graphene-quality human being.
You are superconductive, transparent, strong, and living in a state of grace. What comes next? Does the journey just end?
Do you just retire to a mountaintop and levitate?
Yeah, exactly. Have you just won the game of personal development?
It's a common misconception that enlightenment or ultimate mastery is a solitary retirement. The framework of graphenosophy is very clear that the journey does not end in isolation.
So there's another task.
In fact, reaching stage 3 introduces a profound new responsibility. The final developmental task is that having reached this graphene quality, we must continuously maintain it, and crucially, we must share it with others.
It's not about escaping the world, it's about becoming a better conduit for it.
Exactly. And the source maps this perfectly by noting a transition back to an earlier I Ching concept. We return to hexagram 45.
Gathering together. We saw that back in stage 2.
We did, but the context has completely changed. In stage 2 graphite, gathering together meant gathering your own wild internal energies to build your own personal structure.
It was an inward self-protective gathering.
But in stage 3 graphene, because you are now highly conductive and completely transparent, you no longer need to gather energy for yourself. You are a superconductor.
Right. A superconductor doesn't hoard electricity, it passes it perfectly.
Your purpose becomes transmitting that pure energy outward to gather and elevate the people around you. You become the center of gravity for a community.
This makes so much sense. If you are a superconductor, energy passes through you without losing any power.
Meaning energy passes through it efficiently to the world around it.
So when you encounter someone who is stuck in stage 1, someone who is a chaotic, exhausted biological mess, you don't get drained by their chaos.
Because you have no friction. Their chaotic energy passes into you, your perfect hexagonal structure organizes it, and you transmit clarity back out to them.
You become a catalyst for others to transform their own amorphous carbon.
Your clarity helps them organize their chaos. Your grace gives them the courage to apply the taming power to their own lives.
You essentially become the geological pressure that helps turn their coal into diamonds.
That is the ultimate societal function of the graphene state. You become a structural pillar for humanity, not by forcing people to follow your rules, but simply by existing in a state of perfect, frictionless conductivity.
To bring this all together, let's summarize this incredible elemental journey we've been on today. We start our developmental lives as biological chaos, stage 1.
We are full of absolute, boundless potential, but we are scattered, highly reactive, and ultimately exhausted by the burning of our own liquid energy.
We are the blackened sludge of the nigredo.
Then we make the conscious choice to apply the taming power. We restrict our impulses. We endure the friction of discipline.
We literally forge ourselves into the layered stability of graphite, stage 2. We become productive, we become highly reliable, we build our empires and our routines.
But eventually we realize that we've become rigid, heavy, and enslaved by our own protective layers.
And finally, we find the immense courage to strip away that heavy density. We let go of the scaffolding.
We refine ourselves into the transparent, perfectly aligned, single monolayer of graphene, stage 3, the rubido.
This is where ultimate strength, absolute flexibility, and authentic, effortless impact become our natural resting state. We stop trying to be strong, and we simply become unbreakable.
It is a phenomenal, elegant way to conceptualize the arc of a human life. It marries the cold, hard facts of physics with the deepest poetry of the human soul.
It really is a masterpiece of a framework. And as we wrap up this deep dive into your own internal chemistry, I want to leave you with a final thought.
What is that?
It's something that has been lingering in the back of my mind since we started preparing for this, and it is directly inspired by the literal scientific reality of the text we've been discussing. Think about the periodic table.
Okay.
Think about what we've actually talked about today. Graphene, the ultimate superhuman superconductive stage 3. Wait, no, graphene is quite literally made of the exact same carbon atoms as the messy, squishy, chaotic biological sludge of stage 1.
It is the exact same material. Not one atom has been added.
Not 1 ounce of foreign gold was injected. So what if your ultimate state of superhuman clarity doesn't require you to acquire anything new at all?
A profoundly empowering question.
What if you don't need another university degree or a new personality trait or a magic pill? What if reaching your absolute highest potential, becoming the most impactful version of yourself, is simply a matter of changing the geometry of the elements you already possess right now?
The gold was inside the lead the entire time. It just needed to be rearranged.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We encourage you to take a hard, honest look at your life today and ask yourself, which stage of carbon are you currently embodying? Are you liquid and chaotic? Are you heavy and layered? Or are you aligned, transparent, and ready to conduct the energy of the world? We'll see you next time.